2026 Brewers Spring Training Games 29 and 30. Yes, I am adding the final two games together because they are exhibition games, even though they are technically spring training games. Anyways, Game 1, the Brewers would win 9-1. Blake Holub with the win, Brady Singer with the loss. Top of the first, Aaron Ashby would start by walking TJ Friedl. He'd get 2 outs to keep Brian Hayes and Ellie De La Cruz, and then he'd walk Sal Stewart. Blake Holub would enter the game for the Brewers, and he'd get the final of the inning to Eugenio Suarez. Bottom of the first, Brady Singer would throw a 1-2-3. Top of the second, Blake Holub would throw a 1-2-3. Bottom of the second, Christian Yelich would start off with a single. Luis Rengifo would hit a double, then Jake Bauers would get walked. Sal Frelick would be out number 1 on a flyout. A 2 RBI double by David Hamilton would make it 2-0, then an RBI grundle by Garrett Mitchell would make it 3-0. Jackson Chourio would be out number 3 on a flyout. Top of the third, Easton McGee would enter the game for the Brewers. He'd start by getting the first out to Dave Myers. TJ Friedl would hit a double, then an RBI single by Brian Hayes would make it 3-1. Ellie De La Cruz would be out number 2. Sal Stewart would get walked, and then Eugenio Suarez would be out number 3 on a flyout. Bottom of the third, Bryce Ring would lead it off with a solo home run, making it 4-1. After that, Brady Singer would throw a 1-2-3. Top of the fourth, D.L. Hall would enter the game for the Brewers. He'd start by giving up a double to Spencer Steer, then after that, he would throw a 1-2-3. Bottom of the fourth, Jake Bauers would be out number 1 on a groundout, so Frelick would hit a double, and then David Hamilton would hit a single. Then he'd score on a stolen base. An RBI grundle by Garrett Mitchell would make it 6-1. Then Jackson Chourio will be out number 3. Top of the fifth, Jared Koenig would enter the game for the Brewers. He'd start by getting the first toss to TJ Friedl and Brian Hayes. Ellie De La Cruz would get walked, and then Sal Stewart would be out number 3 on a groundout. Bottom of the fifth, Emilio Pagan would enter the game for the Reds. He'd start by getting the first out to Bryce Ring, then he'd give up a solo home run to William Contreras, making it 7-1. Christian Yelich and Luis Rengifo would hit into back-to-back outs to end out the inning. Top of the sixth, Grant Anderson would enter the game for the Brewers, and he'd start by giving up a walk to Eugenio Suarez. Spencer Steer would be out number 1, Tyler Stevenson would be hit by a pitch, and then Noelvi Marte would ground into a double play to end out the inning. Bottom of the sixth, Brock Burke would enter the game for the Reds, and he'd start by giving up a solo home run to Andrew Vaughn, making it 8-1. After that, he would throw a 1-2-3. Top of the seventh, Abner Uribe would enter the game for the Brewers. Dave Myers would hit into a fielding error. Will Benson would be out number 1, and then Brian Hayes would hit into a double play to end out the inning. Bottom of the seventh, Sam Maul would enter the game for the Reds. He'd start by getting the first 2 outs to Greg Jones and Cooper Pratt. Gary Sanchez would hit a single, and Brandon Lockridge would be out number 3 on a groundout. Top of the eighth, Angel Serpa would enter the game for the Brewers. He'd start by giving up a single to Garrett Hampson, and then after that, he would throw a 1-2-3. Bottom of the eighth, TJ Antone would enter the game for the Reds. He'd start by getting the first out to Jet Williams on a groundout. Andrew Vaughn would hit a single, then Luis Lara will be out number 2 on a pop-out. Joey Ortiz will hit a single, an RBI double by Garrett Mitchell will make it 9-1, and then Greg Jones would be out number 3 on a strikeout. Top of the ninth, Trevor McGill would enter the game for the Brewers, and he would throw a 1-2-3 to end all Game 1. Game 30/Game 2, the Brewers will win once again 4-1. Brandon Sproat with the win, Chase Burns with the loss. Top of the first, Brandon Sproat would get the first out to TJ Friedl. Matt McClain would get walked, and then he'd get back-to-back outs to end out the inning. Bottom of the first, Chase Burns would strike out the side. Top of the second, Eugenio Suarez would be out number 1 on a strikeout. Spencer Steer would get walked, and then Will Benson would ground into a double play to end out the inning. Bottom of the second, Christian Yelich and Andrew Vaughn would be back-to-back outs, and then a solo home run by Jake Bauers would make it 1-0 Brewers. Sal Frelick would hit a single, then David Hamilton would be out number 3. Top of the third, Tyler Stevenson and Brian Hayes would hit into back-to-back outs. TJ Friedl would hit a single, then Matt McClain would strike out to end out the inning. Bottom of the third, Chase Burns would throw a 1-2-3. Top of the fourth, Ellie De La Cruz and Sal Stewart would start by grounding into back-to-back outs. Eugenio Suarez would hit a single, then Spencer Steer would be out number 3 on a flyout. Bottom of the fourth, Chase Burns would throw another 1-2-3. Top of the fifth, Kyle Harrison would enter the game for the Brewers. He'd start by walking Will Benson. Tyler Stevenson would be out number 1 on a strikeout. Brian Hayes would hit a single. TJ Friedl would be out number 2 on a strikeout. Then Matt McClain would be out number 3 on a flyout. Bottom of the fifth, Jake Bauers would start off with a double. Sal Frelick would be out number 1 on a strikeout. Then an RBI single by David Hamilton would make it 2-0, plus you get a stolen base. Joey Ortiz would be out number 2 on a flyout. Then Brandon Lockridge would be out number 3 on a strikeout. Top of the sixth, Ellie De La Cruz would start off with a solo home run, making it 2-1. Sal Stewart would hit a single. Then after that, the Reds would go 1-2-3. Bottom of the sixth, Brett Lauder would enter the game for the Reds. In this inning, Bryce Ring would be the first out on a flyout. William Contreras would hit a single. Christian Yelich would be out number 2 on a strikeout. Andrew Vaughn would reach on a fielding error. Then Jake Bauers would be out number 3 on a lineout. Top of the seventh, Jose Trevino would be out number 1 on a pop-out. Brian Hayes would hit a single. Dave Myers would be out number 2 on a lineout. Francisco Urbias would be hit by a pitch, and then Garrett Hampson would be out number 3 on a strikeout. Bottom of the seventh, Sal Frelick would start by reaching on a fielding error. Luis Rengifo would be out number 1 on a strikeout. Then Joey Ortiz would reach on a single. A 2 RBI single by Brandon Lockridge would make it 4-1. Gary Sanchez would hit a single, then Jet Williams would be out number 2 on a force-out. And then Garrett Mitchell would be out number 3 on a groundout. Top of the eighth, Nathaniel Lowe would start off with a groundout. Michael Toglia would hit a single, then Noelvi Marte would ground into a double play to end out the inning. Bottom of the eighth, the Brewers will go 1-2-3. Top of the ninth, Hector Rodriguez and Jose Trevino will get back-to-back outs. PJ Higgins would hit a single, then Dave Myers will be out number 3 on a lineout to end out the series. Alright, so the Brewers win both games. The record to end out spring training is 14-16. And the Brewers' respective hitters of the games go to David Hamilton for Game 1, and then Jake Bauers for Game 2. And the pitchers of the game go to Blake Holub for Game 1 and Brandon Sproat for Game 2.